In a city of glass towers and frozen hearts, Alexander Voss had spent 15 years building an empire so no one could ever hurt him again. Until one rainy evening, a stranger with kind eyes and coffee-stained sleeves looked straight through his armor and asked the one question he had spent a lifetime avoiding. "Are you okay?" If you've ever wondered whether someone truly broken can still learn how to love, stay with me. This story might just change how you see the people who seem coldest on the outside. And if it touches you even a little, drop a single heart emoji in the comments right now. It helps more than you know. Welcome back, my wonderful family and friends. If you're tuned in and ready to dive into today's story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Tomorrow, I'll be bringing you another exciting story you definitely don't want to miss. So, let's get started. Rain hammered the tinted windows of the penthouse on the 78th floor like it was personally offended by the existence of glass. Alexander Voss stood motionless at the floor-to-ceiling pane, hands buried in the pockets of his charcoal Tom Ford suit, watching the city blur into streaks of red taillight and sodium yellow. 38 years old. Net worth north of 11 billion. Owner of Voss Global, the logistics software conglomerate that quietly controlled 37% of the planet's supply chain data. And tonight, like most nights, completely alone. The whiskey in his hand, a 32-year-old Macallan, had gone untouched for 20 minutes. He didn't drink to feel better anymore. He drank to feel nothing at all. His phone buzzed once on the black marble console behind him. A notification from the security desk. MS. Hart is waiting in the lobby. She insists it's urgent. Alex's jaw tightened. He hadn't ordered anything. Hadn't requested any late-night visitors. Especially not some woman whose name meant nothing to him. He tapped the screen. Send her away. 30 seconds later, another message. She says she's from Haven Books and Cafe. She has something that belongs to you. Alex exhaled through his nose, the sound of a man who had long ago decided patience was a luxury he could no longer afford, and he considered ignoring it. Then he remembered the coat. 3 days earlier he had ducked into the tiny independent bookstore cafe on the corner of 14th and Mercer to escape a sudden downpour. He rarely went anywhere without his security detail, but that afternoon he had slipped them, a small act of rebellion against the cage he himself had built. While waiting for the rain to ease, he'd left his overcoat slung over a chair near the window. When the storm passed, he walked out without it. He hadn't realized until the next morning that it was a trivial thing. A charcoal cashmere coat worth more than most people's rent. But the oversight irritated him more than it should have. Small mistakes were how empires developed cracks. He typed one word. Send her up. 7 minutes later the private elevator chimed. The doors parted. And there she was, Elena Hart. Mid-20s, maybe 27. Dark auburn hair pulled into a loose, rain-damp braid that had started to unravel. A navy pea coat 2 sizes too big, sleeves rolled at the cuffs. Jeans faded at the knees. Scuffed brown boots. In her arms, his coat, neatly folded plastic dry-cleaning bag still clinging to it. She stepped out hesitantly, eyes wide as they took in the cavernous foyer. Black marble, minimalist steel and leather furniture. A single abstract painting that cost more than her building's entire mortgage. The space smelled faintly of cedarwood and money. She looked small against all that darkness, and yet, impossibly, she did not look intimidated. Mr. Voss. Her voice was soft but clear, the way a bell sounds after someone has finally stopped striking it. He didn't move from the window. You're late, he said. Her brows lifted slightly. I walked. The buses were delayed because of the storm. He turned then, slowly, letting her see the full weight of his attention. 6'2". Dark hair clipped short at the sides, longer on top, swept back. Eyes the color of winter sea. Cold, flat, unreadable. A scar, thin, almost invisible, ran along the left side of his jaw. Most people never noticed it. The ones who did never asked. He crossed the room in 6 measured strides and stopped 3 feet away. She lifted the coat like an offering. I didn't want to mail it, she explained. It looked expensive, and there was a notebook in the pocket. I didn't read it, she added quickly. I just saw it was handwritten. Figured it was important. Alex reached out, took the coat. His fingers brushed hers for less than half a second. She didn't flinch. Most people did. He unzipped the protective bag, pulled the coat free, checked the inner pocket. The notebook was still there, black moleskine, edges worn. Inside, lists, names of companies, projected revenues. One single line, written in his own sharp handwriting 3 years ago and never crossed out. Do not trust again. He closed it, slid it back inside. You could have kept the coat, he said. Sold it. Most people would. Elena tilted her head. Most people aren't you. A beat of silence stretched between them. He expected her to fill it with chatter, gratitude, flattery, a request disguised as small talk. She didn't. Instead, she looked past him toward the enormous window and the storm still raging outside. It's beautiful up here, she said quietly, but it feels lonely. Alex felt something tighten behind his sternum. An old, rusted gate being tested. He spoke before he could stop himself. You don't know me. No, she agreed. But I know what lonely looks like. He stared at her. She met his gaze without blinking, and for the first time in more years than he cared to count, Alexander Voss felt seen. Not his wealth, not his name, not the empire. Him. The moment stretched, taut, dangerous. Then his phone buzzed again. His chief of staff. Another crisis in Singapore. Reality snapped back. Thank you for returning it, he said, voice flat once more. Good night, Miss Hart. She nodded once, and turned toward the elevator. Just before the doors closed, she looked back. You're welcome, Mr. Voss. And, try not to lose it again. The doors slid shut. Alex stood motionless for a long time after she was gone. The rain kept falling. He looked down at the coat in his hands, still warm from her arms, and something inside him, something he had buried under concrete and steel, gave the smallest, most treacherous twitch. Like a heartbeat, he poured the untouched whiskey down the sink. For the first time in years, it didn't feel like enough. 3 days passed like smoke. Alexander Voss did not think about the girl from the bookstore. He told himself that repeatedly while reviewing quarterly projections in the war room on floor 62. While signing off on the $1.8 billion acquisition of a Singapore-based AI logistics startup, while ignoring the third voicemail from his younger sister, who still believed family dinners could fix whatever had broken inside him a decade ago, that he did not think about her soft voice cutting through the sterile silence of his penthouse. He did not replay the way her eyes had held his without flinching. He did not notice, or refuse to notice, that he had started carrying the black moleskine notebook in his breast pocket again. The one he hadn't touched in 3 years, and he absolutely did not drive past Haven Books and Cafe twice in one afternoon, on the way to a meeting, telling his driver Marcus to take the long route down Mercer just to see if the faded green awning was still leaking in the same spot that it was. He told Marcus to keep driving. That night the city drowned in fog so thick the streetlights looked like drowned stars. Alex worked until 2:17 a.m., then took the elevator down to the underground garage instead of calling for the rolls. He needed air, or motion, or something that wasn't silenced. He walked 3 blocks before he realized he was heading toward 14th and Mercer. The bookstore was closed, windows dark, closed sign crooked in the door, but a single light glowed in the back, warm amber spilling onto the wet sidewalk like spilled honey. He stopped across the street. Through the glass he saw her. Elena. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor between 2 tall shelves, surrounded by stacks of unsorted paperbacks. A cardboard box lay open beside her. She was carefully taping shut another one labeled, Donations, Women's Shelter. Her hair was loose tonight, falling in dark waves over one shoulder. She wore an oversized cream sweater that slipped off one shoulder, revealing the thin strap of a black tank top underneath. A small silver pendant rested against her collarbone. A tiny crescent moon. She looked tired, not defeated. Just carrying more than one person should have to carry alone. Alex stood under the awning of the closed deli across the street for almost 10 minutes, fog curling around his coat collar, hands shoved deep in his pockets. He told himself he was simply observing, assessing risk, making sure she wasn't some opportunist who had tracked him down. But when she stood up, stretched, winced slightly as she pressed a hand to her lower back, something low and unfamiliar twisted in his chest. He crossed the street before he could talk himself out of it. The bell above the door jangled when he pushed it open. She must have forgotten to lock it. Elena's head snapped up, For a split second her face lit with unguarded surprise. Then recognition, then wariness, then something softer he couldn't name. "Mr. Voss," she said, brushing her hands on her jeans. "We're closed." "I know." She waited. He stepped inside. The shop smelled of old paper, vanilla candles, and faintly of cinnamon from whatever she'd been baking earlier. The warmth wrapped around him like an embrace he didn't deserve. "You left the door unlocked," he said. "I was finishing up donations. Sometimes people drop things off late." She tilted her head. "You're not here for a book." "No." Another beat. She crossed her arms loosely, not defensive, just waiting. He hated how easily she disarmed him without even trying. "I came to thank you," he said. The words tasted foreign. Her brows lifted. "For returning your coat? For not selling it? For not reading the notebook? For—" He stopped. "Most people see an opportunity. I'm not most people. So I'm beginning to understand." Silence settled again, thicker this time. Elena studied him for a long moment. "You're not okay?" she said quietly. It wasn't a question. Alex felt the air leave his lungs in a slow hiss. "I don't recall asking for your opinion." "You didn't." She shrugged one shoulder. "But you walked 3 blocks in the fog at 2 in the morning to stand outside my shop. That's louder than words." He stared at her. She didn't look away. Something cracked, small, almost inaudible. Inside the vault he'd spent 15 years reinforcing, he took one step closer. "You don't know anything about me." "I know you're lonely," she said simply. "And I know what it feels like to pretend you're not." The words landed like stones in still water. Ripples spread. He wanted to leave. He wanted to stay. He wanted, God help him, to ask her why she cared. Instead he said, voice low and rough, "Why are you still open at this hour?" Volunteering shift ran late. The shelter needed extra books for the kids' corner. "I told them I'd sort through the last box tonight." She gestured at the stacks. "They're short-staffed. I don't mind." "You should mind," he said before he could stop himself. "You look exhausted." She gave a small, surprised laugh, soft, unguarded. "Wow, that almost sounded like concern." "It wasn't." "Sure it wasn't." She bent to pick up a stray paperback that had slipped from the stack. A worn copy of The Little Prince. When she straightened, their eyes met again, closer this time. Only 4 feet separated them. He could smell the faint trace of vanilla on her skin. His pulse kicked, hard, unfamiliar. She noticed, her lips parted slightly. Neither of them moved. Then she whispered, so quietly he almost missed it. "You don't have to keep running from it, you know." "From what?" "Feeling something." The air turned electric. Alex felt every wall he'd ever built tremble. He took another step. Now only 2 feet. He could see the faint freckles across her nose, the tiny scar above her left eyebrow, the way her chest rose and fell just a fraction faster. "I don't feel anything," he lied. Her eyes searched his. "Liar." One word, soft, devastating. Something snapped and he closed the distance in one stride, cupped her face with both hands. Not gently, not carefully. Like a man who had forgotten how to be either, and kissed her, hard, desperate. Like he was drowning and she was oxygen. Elena froze for half a heartbeat. Then she kissed him back, not timidly, not politely. With the same fearless honesty she'd shown since the moment she stepped into his penthouse. Her fingers curled into the lapels of his coat. She rose onto her toes. The book fell from her hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. He tasted coffee. Cinnamon. Rain. Her. His hands slid into her hair, tilting her head, deepening the kiss until the world narrowed to the heat of her mouth and the small, needy sound she made in the back of her throat. When they finally broke apart, gasping. Her eyes were wide, pupils blown, lips swollen. She stared up at him like she was seeing him for the first time. He stared down at her like she had just rewritten every rule he lived by. Neither spoke. Then she whispered, voice trembling but steady. "That wasn't nothing." Alex swallowed. "No," he rasped. "It wasn't." He rested his forehead against hers, eyes closed, breathing her in. For the first time in 15 years, the silence inside him didn't feel like emptiness. It felt like possibility. But possibility was dangerous. He pulled back, slowly, reluctantly. I shouldn't have done that. Why not? She asked, voice still shaky. Because I ruined things. She reached up, brushed her thumb along the scar on his jaw, the lightest touch he'd felt in years. Then let me ruin you back, she said softly. He laughed, a short, broken sound. You have no idea what you're asking. I'm asking you to stop pretending you don't feel anything. He looked at her, really looked, and saw someone who wasn't afraid of the dark places inside him. It terrified him more than anything ever had. He stepped back. I need to go. She didn't try to stop him, just nodded once, eyes shining. Doors still unlocked, she said. He turned at the threshold. He paused. Elena. She looked up. Thank you, he said again, quieter this time, for seeing me. Then he walked out into the fog. Behind him, the bell jangled softly. He didn't look back, but he felt her watching until he disappeared around the corner. If this kiss just cracked something open inside you too, drop your honest thoughts below. Did it feel earned? Too fast? Exactly right? Tell me in the comments. One sentence, one word, whatever's on your heart. I read every single one. The next 7 days felt like walking on cracking ice. Alexander Voss returned to his empire with the precision of a man trying to outrun his own shadow. Meetings stacked like bricks. Tokyo at dawn via video, Zurich by noon. A dinner with private equity sharks who smelled blood and opportunity in equal measure. He signed documents worth more than most small countries' GDPs. He barked orders. He kept the lights on until 3 a.m. every night. And still, every quiet moment, her face appeared behind his eyes. The way her lips had parted when he kissed her. The small sound she'd made, half surprise, half surrender. The way she'd looked at him afterward like he was worth saving. He hated it. He hated how it made the boardroom feel colder. The whiskey taste flatter. The victories hollower on the 8th day. Fate, or coincidence, or whatever cruel architect enjoyed tormenting him, intervened. Voss Global had quietly acquired a 40% stake in Haven Community Foundation 6 months earlier. A tax write-off disguised as corporate social responsibility. The foundation ran the women's shelter Elena volunteered at, along with after-school programs, literacy classes, and the tiny bookstore cafe that barely broke even but kept the lights on for the neighborhood. A routine quarterly review landed on his desk at 7:42 a.m. Project. Haven Literacy Initiative. Lead Volunteer Coordinator. Elena Hart. Request. Additional funding bridge. $180,000 for expanded children's reading room and after-school tutoring. Current status. Operating at 62% capacity due to budget shortfalls. Risk of closure within 90 days without intervention. Alex stared at the attached photo. Elena kneeling on colorful rugs, surrounded by 8- and 9-year-olds, reading aloud from a picture book. Her smile was unguarded, radiant, the kind of light that made everything around it look dim by comparison. He closed the file. Opened it again 30 seconds later. Closed it to by 9:15. He was in the elevator descending to the garage. Marcus raised an eyebrow when Alex slid into the back seat without a destination. Mercer and 14th, Alex said. Marcus didn't comment. He never did. The bookstore was open when they arrived. Mid-morning light slanted through the windows, catching dust motes like tiny stars. A bell jangled as Alex pushed the door open. Elena was behind the counter, ringing up an elderly man buying a stack of mysteries. She looked up mid-sentence and froze. The customer thanked her, took his bag, and left. The shop fell quiet except for the soft hum of the radiator. She set the receipt roll down slowly. "You're here," she said. It wasn't quite a question. "I saw the foundation report." Her expression shuddered. "You didn't have to come. I own part of the foundation now. That doesn't mean you owe me anything. It means I can write the check." She studied him for a long beat. "Is that why you're here? To play savior?" "No," he stepped closer to the counter. "I'm here because I can't stop thinking about you." Her breath caught, just barely. "And that terrifies you," she said softly. "More than you know." She came around the counter. No barrier between them now. "Then why fight it?" "Because the last time I let someone in, she left with half my soul and most of my trust. Elena's eyes softened. I'm not her. I know. His voice cracked on the admission. That's what scares me most. Silence wrapped around them again. Familiar now, almost comforting. She reached out, fingertips brushing his sleeve. Come see something. She led him through the narrow aisle to the back room, the one she'd been sorting donations in that foggy night. Boxes were stacked neatly now. New shelves lined one wall, already half filled with brightly colored children's books. This is what the extra money would do, she said quietly. A real space for the kids. Not just a corner. A place where they feel safe enough to dream. Alex looked around. The room was small, worn, hopeful. Like her. He turned to face her. I'll approve the funding. Full amount. No strings. She searched his face. Why? Because you asked for it. No, she shook her head. You could have signed the paper from your office. You didn't have to come here. You didn't have to look at me like that. Like what? Like you're drowning and I'm the only one who can throw you a line. He exhaled sharply. Because maybe I am. She stepped closer. Close enough he could see the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. Then stopped pushing the line away. He closed his eyes for a second. I don't know how. I'll teach you, she whispered. When he opened them again, she was right there. Inches away, he lifted a hand, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. His thumb lingered on her cheek. I'm not good at this, he said roughly. I know. I'll probably hurt you. Maybe. She leaned into his touch. But I'd rather feel everything with you than feel nothing without you. Something inside him fractured, not painfully, but like ice finally giving way to spring. He kissed her again. Slower this time, deeper. Like he was memorizing the shape of her mouth, the taste of her courage. She sighed against him, fingers threading through his hair. When they parted, both breathing unevenly, she rested her forehead against his chest. I have to open the shop properly in 10 minutes, she murmured. I know. You should go before the after-school crowd arrives. I know. Neither moved. Finally she pulled back, eyes shining. Dinner. Tonight. My place. Nothing fancy. Just us. He hesitated, old habits dying slow, painful deaths. Then he nodded. 7. She smiled, small, victorious. Don't be late. He left the bookstore feeling lighter than he had in years, and heavier with dread. Because he knew what came next. The past never stayed buried. That evening he arrived at her apartment. A third-floor walk-up in a pre-war building on the edge of the village. Peeling paint in the hallway. A faint smell of garlic and laundry. Music leaking from under doors. Her door was sage green. A small wreath of dried lavender hung on it. That he knocked. She opened wearing a simple black dress that skimmed her knees, barefoot, hair loose and slightly damp from a shower. The crescent moon pendant glinted at her throat. You came, she said, sounding half surprised, half relieved. I said I would. She stepped aside. Come in. The apartment was small, one bedroom, open living kitchen area. Warm wood floors. Books everywhere. Stacked on shelves, piled on the coffee table, tucked into corners. Plants on every windowsill. Fairy lights strung along the brick wall. It smelled like rosemary, lemon, and she'd set the tiny table with mismatched plates. Candles flickered. A pot simmered on the stove. Chicken cacciatore, she said. My mom's recipe. Nothing Michelin star worthy, but it's comfort food. He took off his coat, hung it on the hook by the door. It smells like home, he said quietly. She looked at him. Really looked. You haven't had that in a while, have you? No, she reached for his hand. Sit. Dinner's almost ready. They ate slowly. Talked about small things first, her favorite books as a child, his first coding project at 14, the way rain sounded different on tin roofs versus glass penthouses. Then the conversation turned. She asked, gently, about the scar on his jaw. He told her. Not the polished version he gave journalists. The real one. Her name was Claire. We were 25. Engaged. I was building the first version of Voss when she decided a tech heir from Silicon Valley looked better on her arm than a man still sleeping on a futon. She left the night before the proposal dinner. Took the ring, half my savings, and every illusion I had about love being real. Elena listened without interrupting. When he finished, she reached across the table and covered his hand with hers. I'm sorry. Don't be. It made me who I am. It made you afraid. He didn't deny it. She stood, came around the table, sat on his lap facing him, straddling his thighs, arms looped around his neck. I'm not Claire, she said again. I don't want your money. I don't want your empire. I want the man who walked through fog at 2 a.m. because he couldn't stay away. His hands settled on her hips. What if that man isn't enough? Then we'll find out together. She kissed him, slow, searching. He kissed her back like a promise. They moved to the couch. Clothes came off in quiet rustles. Skin met skin. Whispers turned to gasps. Afterward they lay tangled under a throw blanket, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing lazy circles on her back. I haven't slept beside anyone in 15 years. He admitted into the dark. She pressed a kiss over his heart. You're safe here. For the first time in forever, he believed it. But safety was fragile. 2 days later his sister, the persistent, infuriating Victoria, called. Alex, I'm in town. Dinner tomorrow. No excuses. He almost refused. Then Elena's voice echoed in his head. Stop running. Fine, he said. Bring whoever. Victoria brought their mother, and Claire. The ex-fiancé who had once broken him now sat across the private dining room table at Le Bernardin, smiling like no time had passed. Alex, she purred, you look successful. He felt Elena's hand tighten on his thigh under the tablecloth. He looked at Claire. Really looked, and felt nothing but no rage, no longing, just faint pity. Claire, he said evenly. This is Elena. Elena smiled, polite, unshaken. Nice to meet you. Victoria coughed. Their mother looked between them all like she was watching a slow-motion car crash. Claire leaned forward. I heard about the foundation stake. Smart move. Philanthropy looks good on the balance sheet. Elena's voice was calm. It's not about the balance sheet. It's about the kids. Claire laughed. Light, cutting, sweet. But money talks, darling. Alex felt the old ice try to creep back. Then Elena squeezed his hand. He turned to her. She met his eyes. Steady, warm, and the ice melted. He looked back at Claire. Money talks, he agreed. But it doesn't love. It doesn't stay. It doesn't wake up at 3 a.m. and make sure the person next to you is still breathing easy. Claire's smile faltered. He continued, voice low but clear. I spent 15 years thinking love was a liability. Turns out it's the only asset that matters. He stood, pulled Elena up with him. We're leaving. Victoria's mouth dropped open. Alex. Good night, mother. Victoria. He nodded at Claire. Goodbye. Outside, rain had started again. Elena laughed, soft, delighted, as they ran for the car. Inside the back seat, she kissed him hard. You chose me? She whispered against his mouth. I choose you every damn day from now on. But the tension wasn't over. Because Claire wasn't done. And the past, when cornered, had teeth. If this rising tension, the ex showing up, the family dinner, Alex finally choosing Elena out loud, hit you right in the feels. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. The storm that had been gathering for weeks finally broke on a Thursday night 11 days after the dinner at Le Bernardin. Alex had spent the morning in closed-door negotiations with the board over a hostile takeover attempt from a rival conglomerate. Nothing new, just louder this time. By afternoon he'd crushed it, as always. Victory tasted like ash. He texted Elena at 4:17 p.m. Meeting ran long. Home by 8. Her reply came 30 seconds later. I'll be here. Made your favorite carbonara. No pressure. Just us. He stared at the message longer than he should have. Something felt off. A pressure behind his ribs he couldn't name. At 6:42 p.m. his phone rang. Private number. He almost ignored it. Then he saw the area code. Same as the hospital his mother had been admitted to 3 years earlier during her brief scare with pneumonia. He answered. Mr. Voss. A calm female voice. This is Dr. Patel from St. Luke's Emergency. We have Elena Hart here. She was brought in approximately 40 minutes ago after a pedestrian accident on Bleecker Street. The world narrowed to a pinprick. Is she? She's stable, but there was significant head trauma and internal bleeding. She's in surgery now. We found your number listed as her emergency contact in her phone. His knees almost buckled. I'm on my way. He didn't wait for the driver. He took the stairs down 42 floors, 2 at a time, then sprinted through the underground garage to the street and flagged the first yellow cab he saw. St. Luke's. Fast. The driver glanced in the rear view. You okay, man? No, traffic was a nightmare. Rush hour bleeding into evening gridlock. Every red light felt like a personal attack. Alex sat rigid, fists clenched on his thighs, replaying every moment since that first night in the penthouse. Her quiet, "You're welcome, Mr. Voss." The way she'd kissed him back in the bookstore like she'd been waiting her whole life for someone to finally see her. The night on her couch when she'd whispered, "You're safe here." He hadn't told her he loved her. Not once. Not out loud. He'd shown it, in funding approvals and showing up in choosing her over his past. But he hadn't said the words, and now, the cab screeched to a stop outside the ER entrance. Alex threw $300 bills through the partition without looking and ran. Inside, antiseptic and panic hit him like a wall. He gave his name at the desk. A nurse led him to a private waiting area on the surgical floor. Victoria was already there, pale, eyes red, pacing in front of a row of uncomfortable chairs. She called me right before, Victoria said the second she saw him. Said she was walking home from the shelter. Some delivery bike ran a light, hit her full speed. She hit her head on the curb. Alex's voice came out hoarse. How long has she been in surgery? Almost 2 hours. They said it was touch and go for a while. Bleeding around the spleen. Possible skull fracture. He sank into the nearest chair like his strings had been cut. Victoria sat beside him. For once she didn't lecture or prod. She just reached over and gripped his hand. She's strong, Alex. She's been fighting her whole life. I know. He stared at the linoleum floor. Ugly gray tiles flecked with something that might have been blood. Once upon a time, minutes bled into hours. At 10:14 p.m. the double doors swung open. A surgeon in blood-spattered scrubs walked out, pulling down his mask. Family of Elena Hart? Alex stood so fast the chair scraped backward. The surgeon looked between him and Victoria. She's out of surgery. Stable. We repaired the splenic laceration and evacuated a small epidural hematoma. She's in recovery now. Concussion is moderate to severe. We'll keep her sedated tonight to control intracranial pressure. But she's going to make it. The relief hit Alex like a physical blow, sharp, almost painful. He exhaled a sound that was half sob, half prayer. Can I see her? Soon. She's not awake yet. Give the team 30 minutes to get her settled in ICU. Victoria hugged him, fiercely, wordlessly, when the nurse finally allowed him in. The room was dim except for the soft blue glow of monitors. Elena lay small and still in the narrow bed. 4 lines snaked from her arms. A bandage covered the left side of her forehead. Bruises bloomed purple and green along her cheekbone and jaw. Her left wrist was in a splint. The crescent moon pendant still hung around her neck. Someone had taped it carefully so it wouldn't catch on anything. Alex pulled the only chair close. He took her uninjured hand in both of his. Careful, reverent. Her fingers were cool. He pressed his lips to her knuckles. I'm here, he whispered. I'm not going anywhere. The monitors beeped in steady rhythm. He stayed like that for a long time. Head bowed, breathing her in even though she smelled like hospital instead of vanilla and rain. At some point he started talking. Low, ragged words he'd never said to anyone. I was so scared of this. Of needing someone. Of losing them. I built walls so high I forgot what sky looked like. Then you walked in with my damn coat and called me lonely like it was the most obvious thing in the world. And you were right. He swallowed hard. I should have said it sooner. Every day. Every hour. But I was a coward. I thought if I didn't name it, it couldn't hurt me. But it hurts more not to say it. He lifted his head. Looked at her bruised, beautiful face. I love you, Elena Hart. I love the way you see people. The way you refused to let the world stay broken. The way you looked at me like I could still be good. I love you so much it terrifies me. And I'm done running from it. A tear slipped down his cheek. Hot, unfamiliar, that he didn't wipe it away. I need you to wake up. I need you to open those eyes and tell me I'm an idiot for waiting this long. I need you to teach me how to do this right. Please. He rested his forehead on their joined hands. I choose you, every day, for the rest of my life. Just come back to me. The monitors continued their steady song. Outside the window, the city glittered, indifferent, endless. Inside the room, time slowed to the space between heartbeats. T2:47 a.m. Her fingers twitched. Once, then again. Alex lifted his head, her eyelids fluttered, groggy, confused, pain-clouded, but open. Alex? Her voice was a cracked whisper, barely audible over the machines. He surged forward, cupping her face with infinite care. I'm here, right here. Tears filled her eyes, slow, shining. You stayed. Of course I stayed. She tried to smile, winced instead. Hurts. I know, baby. I know. She swallowed. Heard. Some of it. He froze. You? Love you too, she breathed. Always did. The dam inside him shattered that he leaned down, careful of every tube, every bruise, and kissed her forehead, her temple, the corner of her mouth. I'm never letting you go again, he vowed against her skin. Good, she murmured, because I'm keeping you. A small, pained laugh escaped her. He laughed too, shaky, disbelieving. The nurse came in then, checked vitals, adjusted drips. She needs rest, the nurse said gently. But she's doing remarkably well. When the nurse left, Alex didn't move. He pulled the chair even closer, rested his head on the edge of the mattress, still holding her hand. Sleep, he whispered. I'll be right here when you wake up. Her eyes drifted closed again. But before they did, she squeezed his fingers. Weak, but deliberate. Promise, promise. The room fell quiet except for the soft beep 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 of the heart monitor. And for the first time in 15 years, Alexander Voss didn't feel cold, that he felt alive. Whole, loved, and he knew, bone deep, unshakable, that he would spend every remaining day making sure she never doubted it again. If this hospital climax, the confession, the fear, the raw I love you, while she's fighting to wake up, wrecked you in the best way, please tell me in the comments below. What part hit hardest? Did you tear up? Feel the relief? Share one honest feeling or favorite line. I'm here reading every single one, and it means everything. 3 weeks after the accident, the hospital discharged Elena on a crisp Tuesday morning in early December. The city had already begun stringing holiday lights along the avenues, turning even the grimmest corners soft and golden. Alex insisted on driving her home himself, no driver, no security detail, just the two of them in the black Range Rover he rarely used. He'd spent the previous evening child-proofing her tiny apartment. Rounded corner guards on the coffee table, non-slip mats in the bathroom, a new shower chair just in case. Even though she'd rolled her eyes and called him ridiculous. You're turning my place into a nursing home, she teased from the passenger seat, her left wrist still in a lightweight cast, a small bandage still covering the stitches above her left eyebrow. I'm turning it into a fortress, he corrected, glancing at her. You're not allowed to fall again. Doctor's orders. Mine. She reached over and rested her good hand on his thigh. I love you when you're bossy. I love you always. He said it easily now, several times a day, like he was making up for 15 lost years and fast forward. She never tired of hearing it. He never tired of saying it. They pulled up outside her building. Alex parked illegally. He'd pay the ticket later without blinking. Came around to her side and helped her out with exaggerated care. I can walk, you know? I know. Humor me. Inside the apartment everything smelled faintly of pine, because he'd snuck in a small live Christmas tree the day before and set it in the corner by the window. Fairy lights twinkled already, even though it was only mid-morning. A single red ornament hung from a lower branch, a tiny glass heart. Elena stopped in the doorway. You did this. Guilty. She walked slowly to the tree, fingertips brushing the needles. It's perfect. He came up behind her, arms sliding around her waist from behind, gentle, mindful of every lingering bruise. You're perfect, he murmured against her hair. She turned in his arms, looked up at him with those hazel eyes that still saw straight through every defense he'd ever had. Take me to the couch. I want to sit with you and do absolutely nothing for at least an hour. He obeyed. They curled up together under the same throw blanket from that first night they'd made love. She tucked herself against his side, head on his chest, listening to the steady thump-thump that had become her favorite lullaby. For a long time neither spoke, just breathing. Together. Then she whispered, I was so scared I wouldn't wake up, that I'd never get to tell you everything. He tightened his arm around her. You did wake up, and you did tell me. Not everything. He tilted her chin up so he could see her face. Then tell me now. She took a slow breath. When I was 16, my mom got sick. Cancer. We lost the house. I dropped out of high school to work full-time so we could keep the lights on. She fought for 3 years. The day she died, I promised myself I'd never let anyone I love feel alone again. That's why I volunteer. Why I read to those kids. Why I couldn't just mail your coat back and walk away. He brushed his thumb along her cheek. You kept that promise. To her. To them. To me. I almost didn't get to keep it with you. But you did. She smiled, small, watery. Because you stayed. I'll always stay. She nestled closer. What about you? What happens now? The Empire. The board. All the people who expect the old Alexander Voss. He exhaled through his nose. A sound that used to mean irritation, now meant thought. I'm stepping back. Not retiring. Voss Global would implode in 48 hours without me, but delegating. A lot. I promoted 3 new C-level execs last week. I'm taking meetings from home 3 days a week. I told Victoria I'm hosting Christmas here. At your place. If that's okay. Her eyes widened. Here? In my tiny apartment. With the tiny tree and the mismatched plates and the best carbonara in the city. Yes. She laughed, soft, delighted. Your mother will faint. My mother already knows. She called yesterday. Said she wants to meet the woman who finally cracked that stubborn heart of yours. Her words. Elena's smile softened. I'd like that. He kissed the top of her head. Good. Because she's bringing pie. They stayed like that until the afternoon light turned golden and slanted across the floorboards. Later that evening Elena insisted on cooking. Nothing elaborate, just pasta and garlic bread. But Alex hovered like a nervous shadow until she finally laughed and handed him a wooden spoon. Stir this. And stop looking at me like I might vanish. I can't help it. She leaned up and kissed him. Slow, lingering. I'm not going anywhere. He believed her. Christmas Eve arrived with snow. Real, fat flakes that turned the city quiet and magical. Victoria came early with their mother. Arms full of wrapped packages and a bottle of vintage Bordeaux. Claire was not invited. No one mentioned her name. Elena wore a deep green sweater that made her eyes glow. Alex wore a soft charcoal sweater she'd picked out for him. No suits tonight. Just us. He looked almost boyish without the armor. Dinner was loud, warm, messy. Stories spilled out. Victoria teasing Alex about the time he tried to code a video game at 12 and accidentally crashed the family computer. Their mother recounting how he used to hide under the dining table during thunderstorms until he was 9. Elena listened, laughed, asked gentle questions. When she spoke about the shelter, about the kids who came in with nothing but hope in their pockets, everyone went quiet. Victoria reached over and squeezed her hand. You're good for him. For all of us. Elena blushed. He's good for me too. After dessert, homemade tiramisu Alex had secretly ordered from her favorite Italian place. They moved to the living room. The tree lights twinkled. Snow tapped softly against the window. Alex stood, cleared his throat. Everyone looked at him. He walked to Elena, took both her hands, and slowly lowered to one knee. The room went still. He pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. Simple platinum band, a single oval diamond that caught every flicker of light. Elena heart, he said, voice low but steady. I spent most of my life believing love was a liability, a weakness, something that could be bought, sold, or broken. Then you walked into my world with nothing but kindness and a coat that wasn't even yours to return. You saw me, the real me, the scared, angry, lonely man underneath all the money and walls, and you didn't run. You stayed. You taught me that love isn't something you earn or lose. It's something you choose. Every single day. Tears shimmered in her eyes. He opened the box. I choose you. Today. Tomorrow. Every day after that. I want to build a life with you. Messy, real, full of mismatched plates and late-night talks and kids who need someone to read them stories. I want to grow old with you, argue with you, laugh with you, love you until the stars burn out. If you'll have me. She looked down at him, really looked, and saw the boy he'd once been, the man he'd become, the future they could have. Yes, she whispered, then louder, laughing through tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. He stood, pulled her into his arms, kissed her like the world was ending and beginning at the same time. Victoria whooped. Their mother dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Even the snow outside seemed to fall slower, as if the city itself was holding its breath. Later, after hugs, after more wine, after everyone finally left, they stood together at the window watching the flakes drift down. Elena leaned back against his chest, his arms wrapped around her from behind. Look at us, she murmured. A billionaire and a bookstore girl. Who would have thought? I would have, he said quietly. The second you said, "You're welcome, Mr. Voss." I knew. I just didn't know how to admit it yet. She turned in his arms, looked up at him. I love you, Alexander Voss. I love you, Elena Hart. Soon to be Voss. She grinned. We'll talk about hyphenates later. He laughed, real, deep, unguarded. They kissed again, slow, sweet, certain. Outside, the city sparkled. Inside, two hearts that had once been frozen beat in perfect time, and somewhere in the quiet spaces between breaths, the past finally let go. They had found each other. They had chosen each other, and they would never let go again. 6 months later, early June, the rooftop garden of the new Vosshart Community Center overlooked the Hudson. Ribbon cutting had been that morning. Elena in a simple white sundress, Alex in a linen shirt with sleeves rolled to the elbows, both of them laughing as kids from the shelter ran through sprinklers and chased bubbles. Now the sun was setting. Most guests had gone home. Only a few stragglers remained. Victoria snapping photos, their mother chatting with the shelter director. Elena stood at the railing, wind lifting her hair. Alex came up beside her, slipped an arm around her waist. Happy? He asked. She leaned into him. Beyond. He kissed her temple. Good. She turned to face him, resting her hands on his chest. You kept your promise. Which one? All of them, but especially the one about staying. He smiled, soft, real, the kind only she ever saw. I told you. I choose you. Every day. She rose on her toes, kissed him gently. And I choose you back. Below them the city hummed, lights beginning to wink on, traffic a distant lullaby. Above them the sky turned rose and gold in that perfect, ordinary moment. Two people who had once believed they'd never be loved found the forever they both secretly always wanted, and it was better than any empire IT was home. If this journey, from cold isolation to full, fearless love, left you feeling warm, hopeful, maybe even a little teary, please share your heart in the comments below. What was your favorite moment? Did the ending feel earned? Healing? One sentence, one emoji, one honest feeling. I read and cherish every single one of you. Thank you so much for watching my story all the way to the end. Your support means everything. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts.